Welcome to the Buy Box Bandits podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Buy Box Bandits podcast. Today we are joined by the man himself, a member of the Brickell Miami Young Entrepreneur Squad, my boy Jackson Amazon, who it did over 700,000 in revenue as a 19-year-old in December with predominantly online arbitrage. So those are, absolute insanity numbers, regardless of age, even just for the business model in general and everything. So we're going to talk through all that today, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Sweet. Got a good backdrop to boot for the YouTube viewers as well. But do you just want to take us back to the beginning? I know the story, but in terms of how you got going, reselling, sneakers, eventually Amazon, we'll talk through all that.
Sure. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jackson, and I've been reselling stuff for actually over a decade now. I started reselling Legos with my dad when I was 8 years old. We would go to garage sales and buy Legos, like tubs of Legos, and we would individually piece out the minifigures from the buckets of Legos. And then we would go list them on eBay or on Craigslist, stuff like that, and sell them off. We would buy from the garage sales and arbitrage, sell it online on eBay or other places. And I did that from the age of 8 until I was 13. And by the age of 13, I'd saved up about $2,000. I had to work, doing chores for my parents to save up money to buy Legos from the garage sale, sell on eBay. And then, like I said, I saved up about $2,000. Then
That's
with that
2,000 for a 13-year-old.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
13
like a lot of money for 13.
Yeah.
That's probably the richest I've ever felt in my entire life. Like having $2,000, like my concept of money was like a computer, a PS4 was so much money. So 2,000 was like a lot. And so with that 2,000, when I was 13, I started getting into reselling like Jordans, Yeezys, Supreme clothing when that would go on. And I just became fascinated with these drops that would happen. Like they would release these like limited items, like shoes or Supreme, and it would sell out like that so fast. And it wasn't like Legos where it was just always available and I just had to go find it. I had to be quick to get it. So I would go buy like 1 or 2 items if I could from the drops. And then I discovered I could run bots for the drops. So then I would run bots for buying shoes and Supreme items. And so I scaled that from getting 1 to 2 items a drop to getting 5, 10, 15, 20, 100, 200, 500 items per drop. And so I was able to scale up some capital from that. And when COVID kind of like started wrapping up, like the influx in the economy, there wasn't as much money coming in. Sneaker resale started dying down a little bit. So Jordans became less profitable. Yeezys became less profitable. There was less money to be made in the space. And I knew I had to do something else that would make more money. And when a buddy of mine started getting into Amazon, the concept just made sense to me because it was the same thing of buy at a certain, like buy low, sell high, just different items in a different marketplace. Instead of selling shoes, it was, instead of selling like hype shoes that people were just craving to get, it was selling brand name products that everybody wants, that everybody uses on a daily basis, just at a cheap price and selling it for like a retail price or slightly more than a retail price on a different marketplace, Amazon.com. And so after I learned it and got acquainted with the system, then I saw it work for me. I got some sales through that. And I just went all the way in. And since then, I've done over $4.8 million in sales since then.
So first and foremost, that was a very eloquent come up story. You put that super well. And Miles kind of in his intro, he mentioned that last December, you did about whatever it was, 700,000, 750, whatever it was. And first and foremost, I want to start off with kind of the limiting belief in the OA space that there's like a ceiling, a limit, right? A lot of people, and I think Miles and I are also guilty of this. We kind of create and impose some sort of 250,000, 300,000, some sort of ceiling where it's like, all right, probably makes a lot more sense to go into wholesale and scale and other facets, right? Other than continuing to dive into online arbitrage. So what part of your operation allowed you to get and reach so much scale with OA?
I think it was just my sheer dedication of staying on top of things on a daily basis. I would wake up and I would check for restocks every single day. Like without fail, I would see if the items that I had sourced before were on sale, if they're on a different website now that I knew I could use coupons on. I would check my email for new sales that were happening, 4th of July, whatever it was, whether it's a holiday or a happy Saturday sale, whatever the kind of sale was. I would just keep on top of the products I had bought in the past. I would say I would focus on those first thing in the day. I would check for replens. And then after I've gone through all my replens, I've checked new websites that have the product, checked sales. Then I would go find new products rather than just consistently finding new products at all times. I would focus on replens first and then look for new products.
This is more efficient.
Way more efficient. And that comes a result of focusing on big brands that are carried on a lot of different websites. Because getting into the segue of probably what a lot of people, and even myself included, are curious about is order cancels are the big constraint for OA beyond that 300-ish per month consistently range, which you've been able to achieve, several times significantly higher than that, right? How are you going about handling the order cancel bottleneck, which is basically everyone's biggest problem that hits that type of scale, assuming capital is taken care of?
And fear. And fear.
To buy.
I mean, a comment we get in the streams all the time is what happens if I get a cancel? How do I get around cancels? And sometimes that question and concern comes up without even trying,
I mean, for me, if I get cancels on a website, I'll just try to figure out a way around it, right? You try different emails, you try different names, different phone numbers, you try to like change up your address a little bit, you try a new IP address, maybe use a VPN, maybe use your phone instead of your computer on, just cellular mode, no Wi-Fi, different things like that. But if if you can't get around cancels, like you've tried, if there's a great deal on a website and you could say, you're like, whoa, I could make $10,000 if I figure out how to get around cancels. You should try everything in your power to get around the cancels, right? That should be your primary focus, is trying a bunch of different stuff to get around the cancels. If you just have tried everything that you can to try to get around the cancels, then you just move on to a different website, and that website is hard with the cancels, and you try to find another website that's not as stingy on those cancels. So like there's some websites for me that I just don't really spend my time on because I know that they're stingy with one per customer or they cancel, and I just focus on my time. I focus my time on websites that are much more lax with me placing orders.
So without getting into the successful ones, can you name drop the ones that don't work for you?
Well, so I mean, Hibbit is one that is definitely a whole struggle and a half. Yep. It's always like it's always back and forth. Like there's some things that work. Yep. Everybody gets banned on. Every successful reseller gets banned on Hibbit at one point in their life. That's for sure. But or multiple times, a couple times, right? You get a couple of veteran pins for how many times you got banned on Hibbit. But Hibbit definitely bans. I'm pretty sure I'm banned on Nike pretty hard. I've been trying to order on Nike for a while and I cannot do so. So definitely those two, at least for me. Target, yeah.
Definitely Target. Other than that, though, pretty much everywhere, and you and I have spoken, pretty much everywhere, it's just like kind of like an element of luck to it, right? But the nice thing is basically everywhere they are repairable outside of the websites that we mentioned. So a lot of wealth is lost worrying about cancels that might not end up coming, right? So you want to position yourself to squeeze the wealth as much as possible. And then if cancels happen, then you do use the tips Jackson mentioned in terms of getting around them. Right there. Can you walk through the trajectory in terms like year by year, Amazon sales, and let's get into like some of the big inflection point months as well.
So like, you want me to just talk about like when I started like month by month in my first?
Yeah, because it's about 2.5 years ago. It's early 2021, I believe, right?
Early 2022. So it's been a year and 7 months.
Damn, crazy. I didn't know. I thought it was 2021, but yeah. Let's talk through that.
Yeah. So my first month was in January 2022. And I only had like, I think a week worth of sales in January. And so I did 2,000 in sales January for that like 1 week. February, I did 20,000. March, I did 40,000. And then I believe it was 90,000 after that. And then another 90,000, then 130, 150, 250, and then 300.
Jesus.
like
Yeah. So
month by
you
month.
like clearly figuring it out, and it just pumping in. You came into the space similar to I did, at least Amazon wise, with a big advantage because you'd been in reselling, you knew it worked, you know what I mean? And everything. So that was, but at the same time, you put in a lot of work without any guaranteed payoff to get to that point where you could do it, right? So it's just you see that skill stacking over time. You learn how to sell Legos, then you learn how to do sneakers. And then on Amazon, you can sell anything. So it's a way bigger opportunity, but your current skill set translated nicely into that basically on that. So you live in down in Miami, pretty close to me as well. We hung out last night. Talk about running the operation remotely, because that's something a lot of people aspire to do, whether it's moving to Miami and being able to use a prep center and everything. Talk about how you manage that.
Sure. So I currently use 3 different prep centers, one in Oregon, one in Montana, and one in Jersey. And I have 3 different centers because I'm banned on some websites for some of those addresses. And having those different, addresses gives me the opportunity to order from websites I otherwise would not be able to order from. As well as I get better rates on some certain things, like for bigger size like items. One of the prep centers has a cheaper price, like in Oregon. That's where I ship most of my OA stuff to. And it's like when I was first starting out with prep centers, I made the mistake of not vetting the 3PL as much as I should have. And so I had a really bad prep center, I'm not gonna lie, for like 3 months or so. And it was just really bad. Like they were like taking forever to ship items out. It wasn't the best price, and just like the quality of work was really, really not great. And so for the people listening and watching that haven't worked with a prep center before, I would caution to just call a couple prep centers. It's not too hard. You just call them on the phone and you just speak to them as if this is somebody that you're going to be working with for a long time, and you want to see that they're credible, that they're genuine, that they're going to be there for you when problems come up, because there inevitably will be problems.
Yep.
And you just want the person that's going to care to solve it, because somebody that doesn't care, they're going to see the problem and they're going to sweep it under the rug. Oh, we shipped the wrong item under the wrong ASIN, whatever. But if you have somebody that like you can talk to over the phone and like they're cool, that person's going to have your back. So definitely a mistake I made starting out was not vetting my 3PL enough. But now my 3PLs are great, and I just manage everything from my computer.
Sure. And then what are some questions you want to ask a prospective prep center to make sure that they're good?
Because I mean, it's really you're interviewing them, right? They're an employee, so to speak, just like you would hire a domestic employee. You would run them through an interview and ask them questions. And like the prep center thing has such an impact on your success, your efficiency as a business, or your downfall.
Right. So it's massive. And so like the questions that I would ask is going to be like what their turnaround time is, what their cost is, obviously, on things, how many other clients that they have working with them, how long they've been in business, how many units they push out for people on a monthly basis, things like that. Because like if they do like not that much volume, and you're doing a lot of volume, then you have to figure out if they can work with you to get the volume that you want out. Like my first prep center, they were doing a very small amount of volume, and I didn't even know. So I just sent in like 3,000, 4,000 items in a month, and she was like overwhelmed, and she ended up not shipping anything out for like 3 months because it was too much. It overwhelmed her. She couldn't get to it because it was just too much. But now I work with other prep centers that ship out like 50,000, 60,000, 100,000 units a month. And, my 4,000 units is just a piece of the puzzle. So they're used to that volume. So how many units they ship out is super important. Things like that, I would say.
Another big one is how they handle problems, issues,
right?
Because they're inevitably going to receive things that either aren't what you ordered, not enough to, or damaged. And so that sort of process in place to handle and quality check things as they come in, whether it's a problem like representative that you have a contact with or a group chat or whatever the case may be, that process is super, super important. Kind of transitioning off the prep center piece. Obviously, you run your business remote. Take us through the dynamic of your team structure right now, what sort of VAs you have in place, their processes, tasks, that sort of thing.
Sure, sure. So I am basically the backbone of the company for the most part, and I have one VA, and she just does kind of more organization sort of stuff. So keeping track of emails, responding to customer inquiries, removing negative feedback, um, handling FBM orders a little bit. So I have my prep center ship out FBM orders for me, and then so she'll like pay for the shipping label and then just like send that to the prep center through their like online portal and stuff. So she just manages that. Um, in terms of buying and sourcing and repricing, I just do that myself because it doesn't take that much time for me. I work maybe 1 to 2 hours a day, and just treat my time very, very highly. So I'm only spending my time doing like the most valuable tasks. So the 1 to 2 hours that I'm working are spending as much money on orders as possible, and really just like the high level tasks.
Right there, because that's where the upside is, the sourcing, the getting capital deployed, the making sure you're dialing in your ROI, stuff like that. Can we dig in a little bit in terms of sourcing, right? That's probably what most people struggle with. It is what most people struggle with the most. It's how do we make items profitable? How do we find products that are profitable? Can you dig in a little bit in terms of OA strategy to go ahead and actually make items profitable?
Sure, sure. So like my strategy for OA was definitely like rather than focusing on I put a high amount of effort focusing on the websites to order from rather than the products per se. So I would like have the websites that I love working with, and I would just consistently check like 5 or 6 different websites. So I would check a bunch of websites for certain product. Let's just say it's a Nike product. I would find a couple different websites that had that product, and then I would see what coupons they had on that website that could also be used for other things too. And I would just spend a high amount of time just checking those like 5, 6, 7 websites, rather than like finding a product and then looking across like 50 different websites. Go for the good websites rather than the good products. Because on those good websites, then they have 20 great products on each of those websites. And those websites, I know I can order super deep in, they have great sales, and they don't cancel me.
Sure. But the key is you got to find those good websites, and that takes a lot of experimentation, talking to other sellers, figuring yourself out on your own, as well. Can you talk about the way you actually track everything and the amazing free resource that you offer in that regard as well?
For sure. For sure. So after me spending like so much time keeping track of the websites I buy from, gift cards that I use, what I bought, where, all this sort of stuff, like my thousands of hours doing that, I built a custom Airtable template where I store all of that information, like the coupons that I use on certain websites, gift cards, my orders that I place, all that sort of stuff. And I keep that all in this hub, basically. And so that helps me because whenever I need to replan an item, or like I have money to spend, I could go back to the Airtable and look at what I've ordered in the last month, the last year, the last, couple months ago, whatever. I can just see everything right there. And I can just be like, oh man, I totally forgot about that product. I should just go find that product and reorder it. Or I forgot about that website I need to reorder from. Because it's so easy to get caught up in buying so many different products and on so many different websites. So being able to just like quickly reference that and have that information at hand all in one place was super, super valuable to me. And so I built out a custom Airtable template that I give out completely for free. And that's on my Twitter.
Sure.
My Twitter is Jackson AMZN.
Fire. Yeah, so check that out if you haven't. You also have a YouTube video breaking it down. It's a pretty, well, probably the most complex system I've seen, at least publicly available, right there, which is absolutely fire. And so I know that you've always been really big into OA. I know you're doing wholesale as well now. Get a quick hit of the Celsius. Shout out to all the Twitter boys listening in the Celsius gang on you. Jared, yep, or Gary. Yeah, right there. Talk about the wholesale stuff you've been doing lately.
Sure. So I've been just getting a little bit into wholesale, exploring kind of like just like the way that it works, reaching out to suppliers, using Scan Unlimited to go through lists, things like that. I've really found, I've still to be honest, for the most part, still been in OA. I haven't dove that deep into wholesale as much because I've been able to just find higher ROIs with OA. And I can scale OA very high. So I haven't gone into wholesale too much.
And you just see more opportunity. Do you think long term you'll have to go that to do the numbers you want to?
I think so. I think a good mix of like 50-50 OA wholesale to get to $1 million months.
Yeah, you can completely do that. Yeah, I mean, if you can do your first year, have that type of numbers and scale and everything. And do you think in the future you take prep in-house?
That's definitely something I've been thinking about a lot recently. I think maybe 4 to 5 months down the line, I would consider like getting a warehouse. Yeah.
In Delaware or where?
Yeah, we're at.
Somewhere in the East Coast. I haven't fully decided yet. I'll have to like look at locations, but
yeah,
I think so.
Delaware makes the most sense because it gets you well, now Delaware and New Jersey and Pennsylvania, actually, for that matter, from supply chain and just area of the country, best warehouses and sales tax, I would say. So what does it look like in terms of growing from here? Like, what are you doing daily to try and get to the next level and such?
Yeah, so just as always, keeping on top of replenishable items that I can still sell. Never cut that out. I always do that day in, day out. And just exploring new products to find new products and looking for more wholesale suppliers as well. So trying to branch out to the wholesale. Like I said, I haven't gone as deep into it, but still working to find more suppliers so that I can start to spend more on those suppliers. So really just trying to grow my catalog of products for OA and then grow my catalog of suppliers for wholesale.
In terms of tactically, how is that? What does that outreach look like from a wholesale perspective? Is it brands, distribution companies? How are you doing that outreach, that sort of thing?
So I've been primarily just doing like research through like Google to find suppliers and then just giving them a call on the phone, or if they don't have a phone number, sending emails.
Got it. And so we're recording this for the audience in beginning of what are we in August? And so in a
August
couple of
2nd,
weeks, obviously we have ASD. You had some pretty good success last year at ASD, placing a couple big orders from what I remember, right? Talk us through your approach heading into ASD this year. Any different game plan, a different approach compared to last year and what you learned from last year? Talk us through that.
Sure. So actually the orders that I had lined up, we actually didn't go through with placing those because there was just some kind of like concerns with the supplier. So we didn't end up placing them. But before, like, my thought process going into ASD was like right before ASD, I didn't know anything about wholesale. I didn't know catalogs, lists. I didn't know how it works, what's required, kind of like the process of stuff. Like I didn't know like the size of pallets I need to send to Amazon or anything like that, right? So like my thought process going to ASD was I can either not go to this ASD, like the one that was before I went, I was like, I can either not go to this ASD and learn what wholesale is and then be prepared for August, or I can just go to this ASD not knowing anything and just use it as a learning experience and not like basically expect to get any deals done, but expect to just learn about the process. And so going there, it was a really humbling experience because like just being in this room of like thousands of wholesalers, and I had no clue what to say. Like, what am I supposed to say? I'm an Amazon seller, or I'm not an Amazon seller, or like what do I say? Like, if they give me a catalog of products, like, what do I look for it manually? I had no clue what to do. So going in there, I would go talk to these wholesale suppliers and just be like, hey, like I want to sell your products on Amazon. And some of them would say no, and some of them would say yes. The ones that said no, like they would say like, I was like, oh, can I sell, like, I want to sell your products on Amazon. And they would be like, oh no, we're not interested in that. And then I would be like, oh, like, why is that? And they'd be like, oh, it's like, it's too many problems. Like, we can't deal with that. And I was like, why is it too many problems? And then they would be like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Just email me. I'll get you a list.
Oh,
like, it seems like,
that's some sauce right there. Yeah. They want the people who, because if you're going to work to get an account with them, you're probably going to take the time to put in the work to spend money with them too.
Yep.
You just have to be confident because there's so many people going to ASD. You just have to sound like you know what you're doing, because like the people that like, hey, like I want to sell your products on Amazon, and they're like, no, the people that don't know what they're doing are going to give up. But like the people that see that distributor has good products for sale, they're going to be like, what kind of problems are you talking about? They know that that's kind of just like a fallacy or something like made up. So you just ask like, why, like, what's the problem here? Right. And then they'll usually let you purchase. But yeah, just going into it, I didn't know what to do. So like, just, I used it as a learning experience. And now going this year, I'll definitely have a better strategy. So when I went before, I was just talking to every person, every like distributor I could, honestly, just to get the reps in, so that like I could like just learn what to say and stuff. Cause like I'm not gonna lie, like the first distributor I went up to, I was like, hey, I want to sell your products on Amazon. And they're like, okay. And I was like, okay, like, where, like, can I get like a list? And they're like, yeah, I'll send you a list. And I was like, what do I do now? Like, I didn't know what to do.
But
I
you
was
go
like,
through that process. Like going through that process of being clueless is so much better than like worrying about it. Because then you just figure it out. You know what I mean? You do the numbers you do, you know, you can do this, you can do anything.
But even
exactly.
still, you had a face, and you were known in the community, so you were able to, I'm sure you'll get to this, you were able to link and meet other wholesalers that knew what they were doing and potentially going on a deal with them.
Right, right. And so like my that first interaction, like that was like super, like I was super nervous going into that, right? And talking to that and just like not knowing what to say. And then after I had done that a couple times, I kind of learned, oh, okay, like what to say, what the follow-up questions are, like how to figure out if this person is going to be a good supplier. It just takes like 10 reps realistically. And then I was able to like talk to a bunch of these suppliers. And like I have a picture on my Twitter of just like a thick stack of business cards. And so before, when I went, I was going for volume, just talking to a lot of these people, getting cards, getting catalogs, all this kind of stuff. And now I know what to look for in like a supplier that's going to be like probably like a high value supplier versus just a supplier that is probably not like a great fit for selling on Amazon. So coming into this ASD, I'm going to be going for quality instead of quantity, versus on my first one, I was going for just as many lists, as many people to talk to as possible. So definitely going for quality over quantity now.
Got you.
Yeah, I mean, just some context on that, right? You walk up to a booth and they have like a QR code with the catalog with UPCs. Likely not going to be a good fit, right? You walk up to one and they're just handing out UPC catalogs to anyone and everyone with a pulse. Probably not going to be a good fit.
Makes sense right there. You want to talk a little bit about the move to Miami and the growth you've seen the past couple months? Because I could talk about that all day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I moved to Miami like a month and a half ago, but it feels like I've lived here like my whole life.
We got the pizza place on lock.
Mhm,
That place was
mhm.
fire. So good.
That place, yeah, of course it's fire.
Dude, all of this place is awesome. Is
Yeah.
awesome. Every like I say it feels like I've lived here forever, because like when I've gone back to California, I can't wait to get back to
Oh
Miami.
my
I
gosh, man.
can't
Yeah,
wait.
yeah.
Because every day out here is awesome. Every day I meet people I see on social media. I watch their content. I've been following them for years. And like being able to like meet these people in person is such a valuable experience. And it's just so motivating, like being in the space where there's these like people that you see on social media that are doing either like crazy numbers like in their business or on social media, or just have this like drive. Being around it is so motivating because you can see that these are real people.
Yep. And
Like,
they get up in the same day either way. They feel like quitting sometimes too, but you keep fucking going. Like, and over time you can do anything. Like we met some in the past like 14 hours or whatever. I've met like two people that I've followed on social media for years that like, you know, are 10 years further along and such. Basically. So yeah, I completely agree. And it's not distracting at all. Like for what I expected. That was like a big thing I'm worried about. We'll keep working on getting Garrett down here, but you know, we walk into each other, you know, once a week, probably randomly. And that's not even counting when we hang out, you know?
right.
It's a beautiful thing. Absolutely. Right there. And it's cool just like running into like KT and other people too is fantastic and such. So yeah, as we finish up here, and just in terms like maybe common mistakes you see people make, things you would do differently. Let's talk to the beginners who are listening.
Sure. So I would say definitely go for like one mistake, like I guess Yeah, one mistake that I made like starting out was when I was first sourcing, I didn't know what I was doing, right? And so I was just like searching for a bunch of different items, um, just figuring things out, right? But what I figured out is kind of the best way to go about finding items is to go for like high volume items and then figure out how to get the price less on those items,
Love
right?
that. Yep.
Check all the websites, all that kind of stuff. Because if a product sells 10 times a month, it doesn't matter what price that you get it for. Like you get it for free, but your maximum upside is selling it for
Right.
just 10 times, right? Versus if you find products that sell for like 800, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 times a month. I mean, those are much harder to find. But when you find those high volume items, and then you find it for like a price that you can get a 20%, 25%, 27% ROI, you can buy deep. You can buy a ton of those products. Even just that one product can carry your entire store. Just finding that one product that sells a high amount that you can make that meets your ROI criteria, it can make your entire store. And then if you just get like 3, 4, 5, 6 of those products, then you can do crazy numbers just with a few products. You don't need 1,000 different styles. You just need a few high volume items that meet your ROI criteria. So finding those items that sell in high volume is definitely like a good strat, I would say, to focus on.
Sweet. That's what's up, man. Well, thanks for coming on. Spit a lot of game. Glad to know you. Where can people find you on social media?
Sure. So my Instagram and my Twitter are my name, Jackson, JCKSON, AMZN for Amazon.
Cool. Sweet, man. Well,
Sure.
thanks for coming on, and well, thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Thanks for having me.